Welcome to a special Red Room for Toronto FC, and I am Gareth Wheeler from One Soccer and the Come On You Reds podcast. Obviously, staying home, staying safe right now is the priority, and I know this is called Red Room and not Red Rum, and some of you might be feeling like you're in the film The Shining right now, but we're all going to get through this together, and without seeing regular football on a week-to-week basis, what it gives us time to do is reflect on some of the brilliant times in recent years for Toronto FC. And thanks to our partners at TSN, over the last week, we just witnessed Toronto FC's memorable playoff run culminating in a 2017 MLS Cup. And this weekend, Sunday to be exact, the final two legs of the CONCACAF Champions League final, Toronto FC and Chivas de Guadalajara. And what better time than to get some of my good buddies and some people who have been around the club, you know, you love, you can relate with, to sit back and tell their stories about how it unfolded from their perspective. So I'll introduce who's joining us today inside the Red Room. We miss him already. It's everyone's favorite uncle, two-time MLS Cup champion, including in 2017 with Toronto FC, and played a big role over the course of that CONCACAF Champions League run. How are you doing, Drew Moor? We miss you in Toronto.
I miss you guys as well. We're doing as well as we can during these crazy times. We're making the most of the situation, but certainly enjoying reliving some of the past successes that TFC's had, and looking forward to talking about it a little bit today as well.
We have a couple club legends joining us today. This guy's resume reads like something that you'd make up. It's like on FIFA, not in real life, but it did actually happen. 4-time MLS Cup champion, 7-time MLS All-Star, an MVP, Golden Boot winner, 2-time Goal of the Year. Dwayne DeRosario, Scarborough's own. I mean, great to have you here. Do you walk around with that resume with you and just show people all the time?
No, I definitely don't, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and it's nice to see Terry and Drew, and nice to see everyone's doing well despite what everyone's going through. But we're just trying to do our part, and I'm looking forward to this dialogue.
I want to welcome in another Toronto FC legend, 2012 Player of the Year. But before that, and before the likes of Aguero and De Bruyne, he was a true Man City absolute legend. He's now working part of the Toronto FC Academy, so I guess we can call him Coach today. He's the Thelma to my Louise, my Trump to my Fauci, or he's my Trump to my Fauci. It's my good buddy Terry Dunfield. I miss you, pal.
Wow, quite the intro. It's not easy following Drake. Carry on.
Right. By the way, the mustache goatee combination looking sharp, pal.
Oh, thanks, man. I put on my best shirt.
And last and certainly not least, he is a busy man. He's continuing to churn out the content. Well, one-time Red Bull, now just a proper Red. The face of Toronto FC social, Eric Giacometti. It was your first season in 2017, pal.
That's right. Maybe next time you could lead with me so you could work your way up to the legends. It's kind of tough to follow all these guys, but no, it's been busy times on TFC digital and social. But looking forward to reliving these really epic games again. I've really enjoyed watching them on TSN and going back and reliving some of those magical moments. So it's been a great time.
And the guy with the best headphones as well. Looking good there, buddy. Looking good. Well, we might as well just get right into it and start off with 2017 MLS Cup and that memorable run that culminated in Toronto FC's first MLS Cup for the club. But really, it kind of picked up and started in 2016, losing in such disappointing fashion at home, Drew Moor, in the penalty shootout to the Seattle Sounders. I kind of look at the 2017 season as one gradual progression with the end goal of going back and righting the wrongs of the year before.
Yeah, I think not just losing a cup final, but the manner in which we lost in a penalty shootout, which is always cruel after a pretty dominating performance through the run of play that we didn't take advantage of. And so we felt a little bit like we had something taken away from us that we desperately wanted. And obviously we used that to fuel us through the off season and into preseason. And made a couple of pretty good signings to join us along the way. But I think all of 2017 was fueled by what had happened in the 2016 MLS Cup. And again, we felt like we had something taken from us that we wanted back.
And Drew, like, there's something to be said about peaking at the right time. It was a gradual progression throughout the year. And you think of turning points, the winner in the Canadian Championship final, it just seemed like you were so focused down the stretch of that season that when you went into that playoff run, things were ticking over nicely. Everyone knew their role, and you guys were playing your best football. We
were, and that's always important in MLS. You have to peak at the right time with the playoff type system. But I felt all season that year just confident every time we stepped on the field. We felt like we could go anywhere, play against any team in any competition, and we were going to win. Very few teams, and in fact, no team have I ever been on where it was almost like we could show up and we were going to win games, especially in August, September, October, when they became very important, and then on into the playoffs. And that's a powerful thing when a group of players step on the field that confident.
Drew, normally, I don't know, I feel like throughout your career, Dero, maybe you can kind of chime in. I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, we've used, and I think a lot of people would say we used kind of losing in the final, the fashion. I thought we were the better team in 2016. Fuel to do what we did in 2017. But a lot of the times what you see on the back of a successful year, Drew, is a lot of turnover, and players want to be cash in, new contracts, maybe look for moves elsewhere. But I thought one of the strengths kind of through your era at TFC was there's an incredible core group of players. I'm not going to go through everybody, but was there any – what was the changing room like? Were players kind of looking over their shoulder? Were they looking for big moves? What kind of kept that core group of players together?
No, I think there was a group of veterans that were led by our captain, Michael Bradley, who for me is just the consummate captain. He's the captain that all other captains wish they could be like. I swear he doesn't sleep. He plugs in at night and recharges, And he kept guys like myself and Justin Morrow and Sebastian Giovinco and Josie, even the star players, so focused and so hungry. And those are big personalities. Those are big egos that sometimes can be difficult in a locker room. But that group wasn't about this. We're guys asking for better contracts. Sure, that happens at every single club, every single season, all around the world. But the main focus was every time we stepped on the training pitch, every time we stepped on the game field was, how can we improve? How can we make ourselves better? How can we win? I mean, guys wanted to win in a 5v2 box session before training even started. And for me, it was led by our captain, Michael Bradley.
That's something that I was going to say when I came around the trainings. I noticed the intensity of all the guys, throughout the training, and that's always a good recipe for success, and as Drew said, especially in the 5v2s to start training, you can feel the intensity. You can feel guys were constantly pushing and demanding out of each other. I think another reason what led to the success was the fact that they have a lot of veterans, guys that experienced the game, played at a high level. Obviously the year before they gained a ton of experience, especially some of the younger guys like Olso and these guys who are now stepping into playing a pivotal role on the team. That year before was I agree. Yes, I thought we were the better team, but as the football gods had it, it wasn't meant to be. And then you use that experience, you use that bitterness, that bitter taste, and you come back next year, charged and ready to prove a point. And I think that's what they did the following year, and that's why I think the training sessions were a lot more intense because they were so close, but there was still missing that cup, and nice to see it, to be around the guys and to feel that cohesiveness in terms of that competitive nature.
Yeah, and it's one thing doing that on a day in, day out basis, but Drew, I mean, you guys need to go out and execute once these two-legged ties, and then obviously a cup final comes along. What was it? Was it the individual? Yeah, Terry, go ahead.
Sorry, brother. Just before we get into it, so we spoke about the mental side of it and that intensity. But one thing that also really stood out to me was whether it was the young players, whether it was players what we call in the prime of their career, sort of mid-20s, or players at the back end of their career, Drew. I felt like everybody through that sort of era of so much success, 5 trophies, became better tactically and technically. I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, we had, TFC has one of the best tactical coaches in the league, in my opinion. And he had a group of players, as Dero's talking about, veterans who could play in different formations and could make changes either during games or sometimes right before games. Tactically, we would make changes. You could sub in, we had, everybody talked about our deep squad that year, and it really was. You could, from one game to another, see 3-4 changes, and the team wouldn't really play that different. And again, I think that speaks to the veteran group demanding the most out of the entire squad in training sessions on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. And that translates into, some success on the weekends in the matches. But I feel like, we made formation changes throughout the playoffs in 2017 as well. And we had just trained it and had been over it so much throughout the season that it was seamless once we had to make those changes in big moments.
74 goals, 37 against on the season. Like the regular season was something special, but it would have kind of felt like LAFC this past season if you didn't go on and win the championship, to be honest. Great season, record points, but you had to go out and beat 3 very good teams. And these were scrappy games until the final. And Eric, it all started in your former backyard against the New York Red Bulls. And that first leg, making sure that you came away with a victory that night there, Eric, I know that you were all over it this week. I mean, that's had to set the tone. It wasn't always pretty, but it was pragmatic.
Yeah, and that's always a tough place to play, right? When you go to Red Bull Arena, the way that they press you, it makes it so difficult to try to get a hold of the game. And with Victor getting a goal, I think, inside of 10 minutes in that game, I think that really helped to set the tempo for, starting things over. Granted, getting 69 points in the regular season, but we need to continue that momentum and really establish ourselves again in the playoffs. And I think that they were able to do that right off the bat and show that the second season starting and we're picking up right where we left off. Getting those 2 away goals, carried them through. And I think just that relentlessness, as you guys were talking about, that's what I take away most from that 2017 season, was going through not only every game, but every training session with just this relentless nature that you think there's no way they can keep this up for a 34-game season. They're going to burn themselves out eventually. But as talented as that team was, they worked even harder because there was so much competition for places in that team that if you dropped off even a little bit, you were going to have someone, chomping at the bit, getting at your heels to get into the team. So I think just that competitive nature throughout the course of the season really drove them forward.
What was crazy, and you think back to that, the 2 legs against the Red Bulls, Drew, everyone will still remember the bust up in the tunnel and Altidore being suspended. And between surviving, and that was survival that night against the Red Bulls, there was a 2-week break, and every station in the city, CP24 all the time, is going on about Altidore in the tunnel. What did you see? What did you experience? Because it's kind of surreal thinking back all the extracurriculars that played out.
Yeah, it was surreal to be a part of it. I had kind of gotten into the tunnel late, and things were already kind of starting to go haywire, and I was immediately confronted by 2 Red Bulls players. But it's hard to see in the tunnel too, So I'm kind of trying to figure out what's going on in here, and I just immediately started saying, get out of our tunnel. Like, what are you guys doing in here? And it was surreal. It's playoffs are a different animal from the regular season, and I don't think this is something that would have happened in a regular season game. I think emotions just got the best of several players, and it was a sign that both teams were willing to literally fight to try to advance to the conference final. And I think in the playoffs in 2017, we showed that we were a team that could as talented as we were, we could grind and we could fight and we could win a street fight. And as silly as it sounds, defending our tunnel, was just kind of a part of it that day for some reason.
I was right there and I saw the whole thing unfold. And I think Drew is spot on in the sense that I think that was a turning point for me personally. When I saw that and I saw the guys rally around each other and really take that personal, I was like, okay, these guys mean business. These guys are really out here to kick some butt, and they're not gonna take no BS. And the way the team rallied around, it was like they even grew stronger from that. And I don't know what was said in the locker room after that moment, but I knew it was probably along the lines of, you know what, guys, you kind of felt like everyone had each other's back in that moment, going into a crucial game after that.
I would love to, if someone had that on camera. Like, it's unbelievable that there was no actual. I didn't see any footage. Did any of you guys see actual footage? What happened? Dero, you have an eyewitness account.
I was there, but I'm not going to say what exactly happened.
He'll be in a book someday.
There's footage out there somewhere.
There is.
Is there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The Columbus tie, that was a little bit of a slog, but everything turned up when the lights were the brightest. The formation change for the MLS Cup final, away from the 3-5-2 to the 4-4-2, and it worked like a charm, and you guys just simply played Seattle off the field. Drew, walk us through that change. Then I want to go through each and everyone's individual experience that night that Toronto FC won the MLS Cup. And we'll start with you, Drew, because you were part of it.
Yeah, an incredible night. The atmosphere, the fans, as usual. We're our 12th man, which is huge. But yeah, the tactical change earlier in the week didn't catch anybody off guard, but it was. I think it almost kind of refocused everybody in a positive way, because you go through this entire season and you kind of play one particular way with the ability to change into different formations, which again was always in our back pocket. But for me, MLS Cup was just all about us. It didn't matter who we played. We were so up for the game. We were ready for a street fight. We were ready to play good football. We were ready to do whatever it took to finally beat Stephen Fry, who again was, just put that thought in the back of your mind, at halftime, like, please let's not go through this again. But we were just, for me, there was only one team in it, and it was just the culmination of I'll argue the best MLS season of any team ever. And with all that pressure, we just played so free and with joy, and it was a special night because of it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't really even think it's a question. I mean, it is the best MLS team of all time when you consider the accomplishments that team was able to run through. And for me, that's excuse me.
Getting choked up there.
Hopefully we can edit that out. Greg.
I love the red and black headphones.
We got a motif. We're keeping things. We got to stay on brand. But the way that team dominated, I mean, usually finals can be cagey affairs, but when you look at the way that team was just methodical in that match, Josie and Seba were in tune. Michael was an absolute monster, covering so much ground in that game. Could have been the MVP for me. But just the way that they were able to really put their stamp on the game. Seattle was never in it. And to show the class that they had to come back. And even at halftime, when you might be thinking, here we go again, we're peppering Stephen Fry and we're still not getting that goal. Is this going to be 2016 all over again? To not lose that confidence and to keep going after the game and finally get the winner was just such a relief. And the way that BMO exploded afterwards is something I'll never forget.
Dero?
Yeah, it was a magical moment, magical night, magical experience. I think, to all fairness to Seattle, I think they came out with the same tactic as they did the year before. Sit back, look for a counter. Listen, it's not easy playing away from home in a final competition. I think they tried to go about it the same year. Listen, if we get a a goal, we'll sit on that, and we'll trust in our defensive capabilities. And of course, Stefan Fry was a beast again. I think he did a fantastic job again that game. And if it pushes to penalties, then it's the flip of the coin. But thankfully, through the geniusness, through the creativeness, and all of the star players stepping up when needed, once again, we were able to pull out that win. But I mean, I remember being up top with Tim, with the whole organization, and everyone was, of course, on pins and needles, and I was just like, man, this is our year. This has to be our year. And I just remember, like, this, like Drew said, the fight against New York, the wins that we pulled off. We pulled off some amazing wins that year away from home, on the road, and I just felt like everything was just in our favor that year, that we had to win that. And it was magical. I mean, it was fantastic to see the fans. Some fans are crying, and it was great for football, being a local boy, and knowing that how much impact that win not only had at that moment, but had for the development of that sport moving forward, and for the academy, for the growth of the game. It was magical.
Terry.
I felt like the journey to the final, as Drew said, kind of set the team up for it. It was a little bit I'm going to give an ice hockey analogy, or a hockey analogy. I thought the team was a little bit like the New Jersey Devils of old, getting to the final. And there was interesting curveballs kind of thrown their way, and the group kind of found a way to get through that. And then coming into the final, my perception was a little bit like D-Rose. You kind of knew exactly what Seattle were going to do. The feel of the city is, and kind of the rumors in the sort of media end of things were TFC's a little bit nervous. Seattle are kind of bouncing in training. And then, in my opinion, I thought this was arguably the best performance under Greg Vanney for Toronto FC, even to date. It was an incredible, just an absolute masterclass of football, completely different to what the journey to the final was. And I got a quick question for Drew. I don't know how much time we have. As you can tell, I don't have many mates. I want to keep you guys here as long as I can.
I got kicked out of my house. I'm in my car.
I was like me in Manchester. It wasn't cold, dude.
Go ahead, ask your question, Terry.
But Drew, you talk about there was a tactical change, and there was so much kind of sort of space between the lines and overloads in the middle of the park. What were the details of that kind of tactical change? What was it?
You're asking the wrong guy. I'm just the center back that,
Yeah, no, don't give it away, man. We might play them in another final next year.
Yeah, the way that things work out. Yes, exactly.
I think it was more about the way Seattle lined. We knew how Seattle was going to line up, and we thought that they were going to prepare as if we were going to play in a 3-5-2. And so our ability to change into a 4-4-2 would, free up our eights a little bit more and allow our, maybe our outside backs not to necessarily play higher, but to have a bit more room, because Seattle likes to play very narrow. They like their midfield to, take away the middle of the field. And so, again, we're going back a couple years now, but it was a tactical change that again, Greg, is genius from Greg Vanney, and it just set us up to get at them the way that we wanted to get at them, to free up a guy like Victor Vasquez, give him a little bit more time on the ball, which is always a good thing, for TFC. But it worked extremely well.
Was there MLS Cup final, like a lot of media on it, two of arguably the biggest clubs in the league? Was there buy-in straight away from the foundation and all the hard work he done in training leading up to the final? Or was there one or two kind of think, oh, you know what, this 3-5-2 served us well?
No, it was 100% buy-in. Again, the change I want to say the change only happened 3 or 4 days before the final. And sure, when you first hear it, it means, a couple guys, one or two guys that were maybe expected to play aren't going to play. And that's where the professionalism comes in. And, yeah. I think the guy left off was Zaf, and that's not easy, but he was extremely professional about it. And again, when you have a group of veterans, Mike, myself, JMO, I mean, I'm leaving guys out, but it's seamless, and this is how we're going to set ourselves up best to win a championship. And every single player is a part of this championship, whether you step on the field in the final or not. And that was the mentality.
We have about 10 minutes left. Obviously, the tactical, compelling, it was an emotion. I'm going to take the emotion of that night with me forever. And D-Ro, being a local guy, I mean, I remember you hugging guys like Oso and Ash, because this was a Toronto victory. This wasn't just TFC. This was the Lynx, the Blizzard, Metro Croatia. This goes all the way back. This city had been craving this for decades, even before Toronto FC was an idea. And then these players and this team were able to put it all together, this club, and win it on behalf of all of Toronto. That's what I felt, D-Ro, at that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it starts back 2007 and the inaugural season of the launch. And before that, as we're all aware, the landscape of Ontario, there was no professional soccer here. And to have the opportunity now to have a professional team, and to everyone's goal, every professional team's goal is to win a final or to make it to the big dance, which is the cup. And to have that experience as we go back the year before and left, that fan, was just quiet. I remember the year before I lost a lot of money because I set up a whole big party. And
yeah, you did.
Guy, like 2 balls.
Flo Rida was there.
Flo Rida and everything, and we just had to. It was terrible. So this year I said I'm not doing it. But like you said, just what it meant for the game. As a whole, and not taking away anything from all the guys that were there, but like you said, the local guys, we just knew that how big that was. That was bigger than just on the field. It was so huge because as we know, hockey is always being on the forefront, and that's fine. But this actually put now in the forefront of media soccer right there with everybody else, and it was a great eye opener. It was a good boost for the sport in this, not only in Toronto and for the country, because now we set the bar. We're the first Canadian team to win a championship, and that means a lot, especially when you look at East and you see your rivals Montreal, and then you go West and Vancouver. Now we have that bragging rights that nobody could take away from us. So it was great, and like you said, it was great to enjoy it with the fans and the community. And I can't lie, I think I even shed a tear, and I even play, but that's how much it meant to me, and that's how much the game meant to me.
There was very little turnaround time between that final and the start of the CONCACAF Champions League, which culminated in an incredible run. We'll see leg 1 and leg 2 Sunday night TSN starting at 6 p.m. with the first leg. Tigres, Club America, and Chivas. Those are the three. With all due respect to your current club, Drew, that was kind of the first leg. It was freezing cold. They were going through some changes at that time with the new head coach. But those three Liga MX sides, the way that I looked at it, I think, Drew, you started with the most difficult team and you worked your way down to the team, for me, that was most beatable, but it was kind of a war of attrition. Bodies were being sacrificed. Players were going out through injury, including yourself. It was an incredibly difficult stretch, but I always thought that Tigres was the top team that you guys faced and the biggest kind of team that you ended up beating in that competition.
Yeah, the win against Tigres was incredible because I think in the previous 5 or 6 seasons they were top dogs in Mexico, and they have probably the most intimidating atmosphere on the road to go and try to get a result. But we put so much into the Champions League, and everybody bought into the Champions League. I think there's sometimes for me still a question of whether teams embrace the Champions League, and we did 100%. And for me to have the same core group of guys come back and completely bought in and still focused. Unfortunately, it did lead to some injuries because you're trying to manage the Champions League right after preseason, and you still have the league games, and you're traveling more than 5 hours on each flight down to Mexico because it's a long way. But the win against Tigres for me was something that, and really against Club America as well, because that's probably the most, historic club maybe in Mexico, with all respect to Chivas and Tigres and some of the other clubs. But the tie against Tigres was amazing.
I felt like you guys were trailblazing. The further you went on in the bracket or the tournament, it was new waters and new tests, and it was almost like a bigger purpose, Drew, where you were almost flying the flag for MLS, and all of Canada and the U.S. were behind you.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. I felt the same way, especially with social media these days. You feel like people, they're either behind you or they're not. And some MLS clubs had some success. Salt Lake, another team, had a little bit of success that made it to a final as well. But yeah, we felt the support, and we felt like this was a team that could win Champions League. We were set up to win Champions League, and without getting ahead of ourselves too much, we let ourselves down. We let Toronto down, and we felt like we let the league down by not winning it all against a team that we thought we matched up well against in the end of the day.
The preparation was ridiculous that went into it.
Fantastic.
Season was spent down there. The whole club was behind you. And Eric, you were in the changing room as well. I remember DeRosario scored in the Azteca Stadium, and the Azteca Stadium as a Canadian growing up is like the cauldron you're going down to. You don't know what you're going into. And the first thing he said is, I hope another kid can experience this, and this is just what we need. What was it like down in Mexico, Big E?
Man, I gotta say, like that was one of those pinch me moments where it was like a dream come true. I mean, walking down, I remember going out of those Sprinter vans, pulling up to the Estadio Azteca, and you kind of walk down through a tunnel, and there's all these fans lined up over the top, just through bars, chanting and screaming, yelling at you, spitting at you. I mean, like, you felt like you were going into a cauldron. You're like, man, this is the real deal. And you walk through that tunnel and you see all the historic moments that have happened in that stadium. You really feel the presence that, and the way the TFC handled the Champions League, we're taking this very seriously, right? So that really resonated with me. And this may sound odd considering the disappointment at the end, but for me, I think that run was the more impressive one, just because for all the reasons we talked about, just all the adversity. You talk about the shortest off season between a December MLS Cup getting back to preseason in January. Now you're in preseason, Liga MX teams are in the middle of their season. All the injuries and the conditions between the coldest game in Colorado, the rain-soaked pitches at BMO Field, so many things that this team had to overcome and really showcase the depth and the way that they were able to win going into on the road in El Volcan. That Seba free kick is one that I'll never forget. Trying to stifle my cheers in the press box. I mean, that was incredible. I mean, just the absolute atmosphere and emotion you can feel when you get down there, where you feel like it's literally 25, 30 guys against thousands upon thousands wishing for you to fail, and to still come out on top and get that far was truly an amazing experience.
Drew, just before we let you go, I mean, obviously you suffered an injury between the first and second leg, and we saw Michael Bradley and Gregory Vanderveel play at center back for that second leg, but even for the first leg, it's something that we didn't see over the course of the other stretches of the tournament. That early goal within the first 2 minutes of the first leg, that was a punch thrown by Chivas. How much did that affect you guys in the overall tie? Because it seemed like after that you were kind of chasing the tie a little bit instead of going through a natural approach.
Yeah, I think when I think back to that, that 2-leg series, and unfortunately I wasn't able to play in the second leg, but anytime I think about that series, that's the goal that takes it out of me the most. I know the second goal in Toronto that they scored, Bones would like to have it back, and I would like to have the foul that I committed before that back. But for some reason, the first goal, so early at our place, where we were buzzing before that game. We were so ready. We were so prepared. To me, that took a lot of the wind out of our sails. Now, obviously, we had 179 minutes to get back into it, which we did. But it was a sign that, listen, we've beaten Tigres, we've beaten Club America, but in Mexico, that there's no guaranteed wins against Mexican teams, and that's something that MLS teams have learned since we've been in the Champions League, And so for me, the first goal, it's a bad goal. It's we just didn't defend it well, and for me, it was the worst one of the three that we gave up in the final in both legs.
Guys, just to wrap up here, let's all give our final thoughts, as many of us will be watching tonight, 6 p.m. It all gets underway Eastern time on TSN. What are you going to be reliving? What are you going to be experiencing? We'll go Drew, Dero, Dunfield, and then Eric with the final word. So, Drew, when you think back of the overall tie, other than that first goal conceded, what memories, stand out the largest to you?
Just how proud I am of the club for coming so close, but putting absolutely everything that we had into that Champions League. And I remember we were taking off from Guadalajara to get back to Toronto after it was all finished, and I was kind of looking out the window, and even though I hadn't played in the second leg and we had lost and we had a full pretty much MLS season in front of us, I was just so proud of the club and so proud of my teammates, my coaches. We all bonded through it. We spent a lot of times we felt like we lived in Mexico for a couple of months. But just got so incredibly close to the players and the entire staff, because every single person associated with that organization was a part of that Champions League. And I was so happy to be just a small part of it as well.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of Drew. For me, it was a proud moment for, again, being from Toronto and just seeing what all those guys went through and the struggle. And from my experiences playing in the CONCACAF and, making it far and losing to Pachuca in the same type of fashion. Listen, the game is about inches. And I remember we had a sitter on the 6-yard box. I think it was Delgado had a sitter in Mexico, and that would have changed the game. But again, it's about inches, and that's the cruel aspect of the game. But just having to everyone experience that and feel that emotion, and that's what it's about, man. It's not easy going to Central America and to pull out points, and to see our guys do it back to back, and then go down to Azteca, a very tough environment, and to have guys down there and experience, what it's like to get spit on and thrown on, and that passion that they have over there. It's very difficult, but what I remember is just being extremely, extremely proud of the guys, to know that, we were so close to accomplish the treble and to accomplish something extra amazing, and to go to the World Cup Club Championships, and to be a part of that journey with the guys, and I can't be the only thing I could feel is grateful.
Geez, those recaps are going to be hard to follow up. I agree, Drew, big time with your point. I think from Javinko to Elaine, who heads our kitchen staff at Toronto FC, to all the fans, every single person in the city, Dero as our ambassador, Eric putting out unbelievable content, Greg telling the story, Wheels hyping stuff up, Drew making amazing blocks. And if you would have played, I just think everybody played their role. And the one key word in my takeaway is belief. And we went that far, and no one thought we would do it. And we came up against the star power of Tigres, Azteca and Club America, against Chivas, Guadalajara, the man-on-man system, and it was there for us. Sorry, Marky, but so I think it's doable, and the belief of that campaign is what I take moving forward. It was special, Drew. Thank you, man.
Yeah, I mean, looking back to me, it's tough because I think you look back at that second leg, and for me personally, that was probably the lowest moment I've had is either working in sports or just as a sports fan. I remember trying to tweet out the losing graphic and the thank you fans as I'm doused in beer and my laptop's not working because it's just covered in beer from the fans celebrating. And in that moment, you feel absolutely crushed. But looking back on it now, just as you guys said, I can only look back with pride at just how much everyone put into it from top to bottom and really went after it when nothing was guaranteed and so many factors were working against the club. The way that everyone really banded together and put everything into it, honestly, it is a real moment of pride and something I really enjoyed.
Yeah, aside from the perseverance of the group, the TFC away support, traveling, it was all incredible. There are going to be some individual moments that will live on the highlight reel for Toronto FC's greatest moments for all time. Oso's goal in the first leg against Tigres at home in the snow, Javinko's free kick, Javinko in the second leg against Chivas, what a goal near post, Alex Bono standing on his head at the Azteca. All these individual moments, well, they live forever. And Drew, you and the team all gave all of Toronto these moments. And like Terry said, thank you very much for that. This is what a club is all about, building off moments like this. And because of these moments, the club is better off moving forward. This has been fun, guys. Thanks for coming in. Drew, show your face around here a little bit more often. You're welcome back anytime, Uncle Drew.
We can't wait to come back and visit. We miss Canada. We miss Toronto. We miss the club. We miss the people. And we'll definitely be back.
Eric will be busy still creating plenty of Toronto FC content. Here's your next task, Eric. Try to find a bigger set of headphones than the one you're wearing right now.
Listen, I'm doing it for you guys. I'm doing it for Greg, our producer. They're getting the good quality sound. I'm matching the colors, the motif. Everything's working.
D-Ro, good luck getting back in your house. Thanks for doing this, pal.
Yeah, I appreciate it. My son had some training to do in the study room, but while I'm here and I got Drew, I just want to again thank Drew for his work for the Reds and what he's brought to this city and what he's helped brought to the football community here, and we wish him and the family all the best. Of course, Terry and the rest of you guys, I'll see you guys around the way. But great combo, appreciate it.
Dunfield, we're long overdue for a podcast, buddy. Let's get back on it, all right? And keep your team in shape. I know this is tough for you, but you and the rest of the academy are doing a great job from afar. On behalf of Drew Moor, Eric Giacometti, Dwayne DeRosario, and Terry Dunfield, I am Gareth Wheeler. 6 p.m. tonight on TSN, the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions League final from 2018. Chivas, Toronto FC. The return leg immediately follows that. Thanks for joining us today inside the Red Room. And remember, stay home and stay safe.